our friends over at Huel, bringing you the hard count today. Y'all have heard me talk about it many a time. They are very quickly shooting up the office rankings when it comes to snack that we like to have when we don't have time for lunch, but enough time to get something in our body before we shoot a show or before we shoot some content. Like I said, they're bringing y'all the show today, and their Huel Ready to Drink Black Edition is one of the go-tos for us. Like I said, in the office, their Huel shakes almost taste like a milkshake. 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, low in sugar, all you need in a handy bottle. Huel, the global complete nutrition brand with over 500 million meals sold. So you want to get dialed in with us over here on the show, want to get some Huel in your system, 15% off plus a free gift for new customers using our code HARDCOUNT15 at Huel.com. That's HUEL.com. See the description to this show for the terms and conditions, but unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel. Nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters. Now, to close this thing out, the Pulse the Program over at Texas A&M is something we have to unpack now. So to do this, I went over to Tex Ags, which not affiliated with On3, but just a great way to be dialed into the pulse of Texas A&M. And I asked y'all, I said, hey, pulse check. What's going on with this fan base? How do we feel? I understand optimism is kind of a dirty thing to have for a Texas A&M fan with what I have gathered via social media, but like y'all tell me what's going on right now as to how y'all feel. And how we thought they would feel was right about in line with the responses we got. In a phrase, the pulse of the program in College Station is show me. Show me. Actions over words. Because they've heard so frequently, has the Texas A&M fan base, how good they're supposed to be, how many 5 stars they got, how the roster is looking great, how this year is different than every single year. They sit there 8-4, 7-5. We don't want to hear how good we're going to be anymore, JD. We don't want to hear about how awesome we look during spring practice. Just show us some results on the field. Until then, we're not getting our hopes up. We're not falling for this again. And so while I understand that, there's some merit to that. The last time Texas A&M won double-digit games, I believe it was 2012. Before that, it was 1998. So there's some reason for this. What I would say is you still got to put yourself out there if you're a Texas A&M fan. I know that you're probably not a fan of hearing this, but just roll with me here. Anytime in your relationship where you have that kind of conversation, maybe you're bickering, maybe you're going back and forth, and that person tells you or you tell that person, hey, it's going to be different this time. What do they say? Show me. Well, okay, if you're going to show them, that other person or you and yourself, depending on which side of the coin you're on here in this conversation, you still have to be committed to wanting to be seen, if you catch my drift. And that's the thing that I think gets lost in the shuffle when you talk about the Texas A&M fan base. Just because there's a desire to actually see it on the field before you hope for it doesn't mean there's a lack of expectations. Like hope and optimism are also very different than what I would say expectations are, because this fan base still expects to compete at the highest level. Now, when I say expect to compete at the highest level, I think it's fair to say they expect to go compete for SEC championships. They're not saying this is the year to go win the national championship, but they are saying we have enough on this roster. We saw enough last year. We bring enough back to where we expect to operate at the level in which we're invested here. And that's sort of the thing around A&M that I think is just, it's a weird discussion to have with the average college football fan who maybe isn't quite as dialed into the history around A&M. Because right now in college football, input from a fan-based level, from a resources perspective and recruiting perspective, has never been more tied to output. And so when you have a tremendous input, what happens? You expect a tremendous output, and that hasn't been the case so far. So just because there's a desire to not get hurt again, and there's a concern level there to hope for X, Y, and Z accolade in 2025, I don't think this fan base is saying, oh, we'll just, we're not even tuned in this year. We're a basketball school. They're not saying that, man. They're not saying that. I promise you. There's still a lot of passion and intensity around this college football program. So to circle back to what I was saying around the relationship, you got to be ready to get hurt again. You got to be ready to get hurt again. The only way that you don't end up fixing your relationship is you quit. The only way, if you're a Texas A&M fan, if you don't get to reap the rewards of maybe some of your suffering is a strong word, but I'll use it here. Reap the rewards of your suffering through the 8-4 and the Jimbo Fisher and the Kevin Sumlin experience is you put yourself out there again. You're still invested. You're still ready. You're ready to face the music. If it crashes back and turns out how it did previous seasons, so be it. But it's not because you weren't there and you weren't invested in it. So that's kind of where Texas A&M is right now. But speaking to what they are in 2025, this is something that I've said a few different times, and I just want to make sure I echo back to it here. Let's be very careful to not pin the sins of Kevin Sumlin and Jimbo Fisher on Mike Elko. Let's be careful. Now, I'm not saying that you expect to win a national championship, but I am saying there's a lot here for Texas A&M with Mike Elko that I think it's fair to kind of change the filter on how you perceive him. Like if you gave everything around A&M a different uniform, the expectations would be that they're a team that's going to go compete for the SEC and a team that's going to go have a chance to make the college football playoff, and who knows what happens from there. But because they have the A&M logo in their maroon jerseys, people say, oh, no. Been fooled one too many times. Mike Elko wasn't there for that. In year one, he had you in a spot where if you beat Texas, you make the SEC championship. Win that game, you're in the playoff. And again, like Ari Wasserman of Andy and Ari on 3 made a great point when they were talking about A&M on their show. Like 8-4 in the Southeastern Conference, I understand you're tired of going 8-4, but like let's not act like 8-4 isn't still a pretty solid feat for a first-year head coach where you switch quarterbacks during the year. There's a lot to be excited about at A&M. So I'm trying to walk this fine line of telling A&M fans as in a outsider's perspective, there's a lot here to be excited about. I feel the hurt. I feel all that with you, but I think this is a chance now for us to turn the page. Mike Elko's here. He wasn't here for some of that other stuff as the head coach. Marcel Reed wasn't here for that. Let's go get hurt again, baby. Let's do it. And maybe, just maybe, you put yourself out there one more time and you like how things go. I'll leave it at that.